In 2024 alone, the IRS flagged $16.5 billion in suspicious refunds.
Tax fraud is common, but being a victim doesn't have to be. Hi, my name's Brandon, and I'm here with my friend Megan. Megan, how about you tell us about yourself and your experience with tax fraud?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Brandon said, my name is Megan. I'm a fraud specialist at FAIRWINDS. I'm a certified financial crimes investigator, so that means that through the IAFCI, I got a certification. I work in the fraud department here, and something that we see every year, something that every financial sees every year, is, of course, refund. Refund fraud, tax fraud, social security numbers being compromised. So we're going to touch a little bit on all of that today.
Yeah, so do you have any tips to kind of kick us off on how to avoid this sort of thing, what to look out for?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I would say is make sure you're using a secure site. So those big companies, obviously, they have background checks they have to do on people, whereas somebody privately can say that they have any credentials at all, and then you're giving them your most sensitive information. The other tip would probably be file as early as you can. Only one social security number is allowed to be filed on. So if you're doing it first, that eliminates the chance of anybody else being able to submit on your behalf.
Yeah, I love the secure site thing that you brought up, especially because there's this great thing called typo squatting, where bad guys will grab the URLs and purchase them, and they will put malicious things on there. So definitely make sure you're going to a good site.
Yeah, it's crazy that people will count on you fat fingering something, and that it gets fat fingered enough that it would be a successful dupe of a website.
So when using these well-known websites, usually it requires an account and a password. Probably password 123 is not a good idea.
Yeah, so like with literally any other account, you're going to want to make sure that you're using not only a secure password, but don't use a username that somebody could easily guess, like your first name, last name. Probably not a good username. Obviously, those passwords, we always recommend numbers, symbols, a randomized password that you're going to be able to know.
You know, that's a really good point about not using your first name, last name, because that would be like the easiest guess. You know, how do I log into Megan's account? Let me just put first name, last name. And there's also many lists online on the dark web of well-known passwords. So don't use password 123. Don't use Ninja. That's also on the list as well. Use something that is unique to you that only you know about.
Yeah, and I would say that if you're continually going back to the same website, to the same vendor to file those taxes, make sure that you're updating your password as well. Breaches happen all the time where that kind of stuff gets exposed. So if you are on top of that, if you're updating your password, you won't be as affected by that breach that happens as well. And when you think about a breach of somebody that does your tax returns, that's a lot of information against you at once being accessed. That social security number is probably one of the scariest things to have breached. Unfortunately, at this point, studies have shown that probably every American with a social security number has had that breached. So it's not just during tax season that you should be looking at, is your social security number being used? We recommend, if you're not applying for anything, freezing your credit so that nobody can apply for things in your name. But when you think about your taxes being breached, that's all the information that somebody needs to apply for that loan. That's all the information somebody needs to open an account in your name. So really what we're talking about is a huge problem with identity theft when we're talking about these tax returns being compromised.
Yeah, and you guys do a lot of work with identity theft. I get those emails, and you guys will say, "Hey, be on the lookout for this fake ID," and they look so good. I'm so impressed with how you guys are able to catch those types of things. And
we're immediately going to be suspicious of that's the first thing that you're doing in this account is depositing a $40,000 check. But as of now, the IRS has come out with an update saying that really nobody should be getting a check in the form of a refund. It's all going to be electronic. Even if you don't have an account, they are going to work with you to have some sort of electronic method for delivery of your tax refund. So if you are concerned about it and you get a check, you should definitely look into that more. But if you are also in an industry like ours where people deposit checks all the time, you should also be more hesitant when you get that check refund.
And I'm kind of thinking from like a broader perspective. There are some people who don't really trust digital checks. Is there a way to opt out of the digital, or are they really going to work hard to make sure that they're doing the most secure way possible?
The most recent communication is that they are going to really push this electronic method, and they're going to do that in the most secure method. If you don't have an account that a deposit can be automatically made, you're encouraged to reach out to the IRS to see what your other options are, but it will be an electronic option.
Yeah. So they're going to default to an electronic option. If somebody says, oh, here's a check, that's red flags popping up.
Yeah, the IRS has pretty much said that if you receive a check, we don't speak in certainties, right? We don't speak in 100%, but there's a 99% chance that check is fraud. Sometimes this gets started, your identity gets stolen because somebody claiming to be from the IRS contacts you. It looks like they're contacting you from a verified IRS number. They're saying that they're an agent. They're telling you all these horrible things are happening with your identity, and you're listening to them, and you're confirming information with them. So sometimes that is also how identity theft starts, is you're giving all of this sensitive information without verifying that the person you're speaking to is actually with the IRS. And I think the first thing to know about that is very rarely is somebody from the IRS going to be contacting you at all for sensitive information. I would recommend never trusting a phone call that you get. You should always be making the phone call and going through verified channels.
Oftentimes letters, and then it'll give a well-known researchable contact method that you can verify that you are who you are talking to the right person.
Just like with financials, we know that fraudsters are out there spoofing our numbers. The IRS is aware that fraudsters are out there taking advantage, because when you think of tax returns, especially for businesses, because this isn't just a consumer problem, right? We see a lot of identity theft with businesses because they're getting large tax returns. When you think about something that is just an easy payday, stealing the tax return of a verified business, you know the check is good, that's going to be a huge payday very easily for somebody. So when you talk about the sheer amounts, this is happening to businesses because of how big that payday is.
Yeah, well, speaking of businesses, we've talked a lot about from the consumer side of things, which it's great to see that we have a fantastic fraud team that is a great benefit to our members. But tell me more about businesses and tax fraud with businesses.
So sometimes it is, again, just straight up identity theft. Somebody is claiming to be the registered owner of a business, so they will intercept that check some way, somehow, and then they will act as though they are that person. They will start opening accounts. And there is a world in which you can do that anonymously because we live in such a digital age.
So as a business owner, you should make sure that your information is correct on those well-known websites that they use to look people up. Well, Megan, I am once again terrified. Bring back my confidence and hit me with those quick tips so that I can approach this tax season with confidence.
Yeah. I mean, so like we said earlier, tax fraud can happen, but there are ways to mitigate it. So that first one is going to be your trusted sites. It's going to be your strong passwords, and it's going to be not taking those calls, right, from numbers that are claiming to be the IRS. Just don't even answer the phone for an unknown number at this point.
File early as soon as you can, right?
Yep. File early. Use those secure connections. No public Wi-Fi when you're filing your taxes.
Well, Megan, it has been fantastic talking with you. I think it's so illuminating when we talk about what the fraud team does and how you guys always have our back up here at Support, making sure that our accounts are secure and you have our backs no matter what. So way to go, way to live the FAIRWINDS way in your role.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your stories.